Hi, my name is Dave Matthys. I'm a retired band director from Lake Oswego High School, and 7 years ago I gave a presentation at the State Music Convention about sight reading room procedures. With all the new directors in the state that may not have been through this before, I thought I would put together a short video to give you some of my tricks and methods for your band to become successful in the sight reading room. I'll talk about what you can do in the classroom, how to walk into the sight reading room, what to talk about in the sight reading room, especially during that 7-minute time slot, conducting tips, and all my tricks and methods to make it a great experience for you and your students. To prepare my students for sight reading, I began working on scales and rhythms at the beginning of the school year, like I know most of you do. I found method books that worked for me and worked on them consistently throughout the school year. When working on rhythms, I also spent time working on coming in after rests. I found that coming in after rests were just as hard as some of the rhythms that we were playing. The book I used was 101 Rhythmic Rest Patterns, which worked both on rhythms and rests. Now, all my students knew how to conduct. I found this especially helpful when playing music of odd meter time signatures, like 7/8. They would figure out the grouping, like 2 + 2 + 3, and then say it while conducting. This really helped out their mastery of these time signatures. Of course, do lots of sight reading, or playing lots of pieces during the school year. And not only practice playing these pieces, but also singing and fingering along with the music. Getting all the students comfortable with singing is imperative. The best bands in the state all sing, and I'll talk more about singing later in this video. Get students used to counting rests on their fingers. Many mistakes occur after rests, and keeping count on their fingers helps them keep engaged during rests. Students should know who will be playing solos in a piece of music. However, the second chair player should be ready to take over the solo or help out the soloist if needed, if they get off. And the same is true if a solo is cued in another instrument, they need to be ready to take over if needed. Students should also know what part they'll be playing before they come into the room. Don't decide on this in the sight reading room. And that's the same thing for percussion. Now, if you have multiple strong players in a section, I would put one of them on the second part and another on the third part, in addition, of course, to the strongest on the first part. Now, go over all sight reading room procedures and rules in class so they know what to expect, and practice this in class, meaning handing out folders with the sight reading piece, singing the music, doing the 7-minute instructional period, etc. Give them all the information they need so they feel more comfortable going into the sight reading room. The next thing I would like to talk about is entering the sight reading room. If possible, try to find out if you're entering the room from stage left or stage right. That way, the students can line up outside the door in the hallway so that when they enter, they can do so seamlessly and smoothly. Have them enter the room without talking. In fact, they should not talk at all until the 7-minute time slot. This is important to show that they understand that this is still part of the contest or festival and that they are taking it seriously. However, it's okay to smile. I love it when I see students entering the room smiling. Now, if they need something, have them raise their hand and the assistant or judge or you can answer the question or help them out. If they need another chair or stand and they see one available, just have them get it. They don't have to wait for you. Should they stay standing until you give them the sign to sit, or should they sit when they get to their chair? I really don't care, as long as they don't talk. The nice thing about waiting until given the sign to sit is that you can make sure that everyone has a chair. Whoever you decide to handle this is fine. Now, when they sit down, they should immediately put their music underneath their chair. Percussion should put it on the floor by them. And lastly, stand on the podium with your hand up like you're going to conduct and have students adjust their music stands so they can see you clearly. I always told my students I shouldn't see anything below their neck. And with that, now you're ready for the judge to talk to the band. After the judge talks to the band, they'll hand out the music folders. Make sure no one takes the music out of the folders until they're given instructions to do so. Once the folders are passed out and everyone has their music, the judge will talk for another moment, and then your 7 minutes of taking them through the piece begins. I highly, highly recommend that you give the students at least 1 minute, and no more than 2, to go through their music themselves, and they can talk during this time. This will give you time to do the same thing. You should be looking at key signature changes, time signatures, style changes, repeats, and so on. And again, you should be doing the same thing. And I recommend bringing sticky notes so that when you're looking through the score and you see something that you need to discuss with the band, put it on the page so you know where it is. Some directors also use this time to read the piece description at the beginning of the piece to communicate the meaning of the piece or style to the students. After your minute, give the students a quick overview of the piece. Let them know where the trouble spots or changes are. If there is, for example, a key signature change at rehearsal marking B, have them physically put their finger on their music at letter B, or point out the key signature changes. Whenever there's a change, have them put their finger physically on the music. It makes a huge difference. Let them know of any solos, fugue sections, or any parts of the piece that might be an issue. However, don't talk too much. I've seen many band directors talk so much, they don't get through the entire piece, and the students will have a hard time. If there's a hard rhythm that you need to go over, have one student, if you have one, that you know can sing the rhythm correctly, have them sing it first, then have the entire section sing it. You'll waste time if you have the entire section sing it wrong a few times before you finally get it right. Now, don't get bogged down and spend too much time on one rhythm. Again, I've seen directors try to get a rhythm perfectly, and they take so much time, they run into problems. So know when it's time to move on. Now it's time to sing the music. All students must sing and finger along with your music. Make sure you sing the beginning, any transitions, and the ending. And some directors, and one of the strong sight reading bands, sing just about the entire time. They just sing through it. Now, different bands have their bands sing differently. Some say rhythms like 1, 2, and a 3. Some sing on a syllable or syllables, and a very few actually sing with solfege. It's whatever your band does well. I like singing with syllables because you can sing with accents and musical styling easier for me. But make sure they're singing the music, not just rhythm and notes. And again, make sure that everybody is fingering. Drums should be doing the same thing, just make sure they're way above the head. A few more thoughts. The judge will give you a 2-minute warning and a 30-second warning. If you want something different, let them know. I always wear a stopwatch around my neck so I can keep track of the time, because those 7 minutes go by fast. Now, the timpani can tune during the 7-minute time slot, but no one else can play. And once those 7 minutes are up, the judge may or may not say something to you after your 7-minute time slot, and then it's time to play. Now you finally get to play. A word about your conducting. Do everything with extremes. If it's forte, conduct really big. If it's piano, physically do something to show that it should be soft. You've got to exaggerate. And it's okay to call out rehearsal markings. If you have any doubt that some students are lost, call out those rehearsal markings. Now this is really important. During lyrical sections, I want to hear and see through your conducting those musical phrases. If you don't want them to take a breath at a certain spot, show that through your conducting. Make sure they understand where to take a breath and where not to take a breath. And also in lyrical sections, I want to hear the music and not just the notes. Stretch out the inner phrases when appropriate, even if it's not written on the music. Do more than what's written on the page in those lyrical sections. Now, when it comes to dynamics, virtually every band plays too loud. I always bring everything down one volume level, and then make sure the softs are even softer. Listening to each other. Students have to know when they have the melody and when they are accompanying. Some directors will point to a section that has the melody, and if they're pointing to a certain section, all the students should realize that those are the instruments that need to be heard. At the end of the piece, I do a huge cutoff so that in case someone's lost, they don't keep playing after the song is over. Again, make sure as a conductor you're doing everything exaggerated And make a big deal out of those lyrical sections. Don't do what you were taught in conducting class and doing all these little things. It's got to be big. Once the piece is over, step off the podium and let the judge talk if they choose to do so, and most do. Now, it doesn't matter if you played well or if you crashed and burned. Just smile to the judge. Do not put down your band's playing of the piece. I've had several conductors make discouraging statements and remarks about how their group just performed. And one time a director said in front of the group how they hate sight reading. Unbelievable. Just be professional. When or if the judge talks to the band at this time, all students should have eye contact with the judge. Have students engage with the judge if they're asked questions or have thoughts about the piece. When given instructions to do so, then have the students put their music into the folders, pass the folders back in, and then pick their music off the floor. And when leaving, don't talk. Again, erring on the side of caution. These are just some of the methods and tricks that I have developed either through the years or have stole from other directors. And I know I've probably forgotten some things. So if you have any questions at all or would like to contact me for any additional information, my contact information is on the OBDA webpage. I hope this has been helpful to you, and have fun.